Welcome back, everybody. I know you all saw this coming, but it's time to rank every single stage in Sparky Electric Jester 2. I'm going to use the same criteria I used in the first video for ranking these stages as well, that being the level design, the visuals, and overall vibe you get from playing through the stage. As usual, please note that this is all in my opinion and you're free to disagree in the comments below. I would love to have a discussion about these games because, you know, they are fantastic. But let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Okay, right off the bat, we have number 14, Shantoria Town, a stage which I think is the worst in the game. Before I start with the analyzing, I just want to quickly mention that Spark 2's level design is a lot more open-ended than Spark 1's. What I mean by this is that usually the level design for the stage are divided into speed sections, platforming sections, and combat sections. That's not really important information, I just thought I'd mention that for y'all to know. But on to Shantoria Town. This level really just feels like an inferior Technoria City, if I'm being honest. In the music department, level aesthetics, and overall vibe, it just feels like the beta version of Technoria City, which is quite surprising because the beta levels for Sparky Electric Jester 2, in my opinion, have far greater presentation than the actual ones we got in the game. Not saying the final release of the game has worse level aesthetics necessarily, just that I prefer the beta ones better. But Shantoria Town is just, it just looks like a mess of loops and then the stage ends in like 25 seconds. Seriously, I can beat this level in less than 25 seconds, it's that short. Not to mention the musical track in the stage is kinda bland and boring. It just sounds like a generic FM station song. Like I said, I don't really like Shantoria that much, and there's not much I have to say about it. Let's just move on to the better levels. Okay, for this next one we have Hyper Fleet, and I don't think it's much a surprise that this is a pretty notorious level in Spark 2, as not many people like it, and that's because it's just insanely annoying. Like, it's the longest stage in the game, and by far is the most difficult, but it just feels annoying to play through. First of all, it's actually the only stage in the game that reuses music from the first game, which I think is pretty lazy. And not only that, but the stage idea is also recycled from the first game, which is fine because it's a completely new dimension, which I actually wouldn't mind so much if the stage was actually, fun to play through. But this level, nah. It takes all the best parts about Hyper Fleet from the first game and somehow makes it worse. Let me just take the time to mention the room. You know, that one part in the level that just has made me rage quit on the playthrough of this game so many times because of how difficult and BS it is. Essentially, you get to this part in the level where Fark is thrown into this giant circular tube where you have to climb upward, and man, it is just hell from there. There are so many things that will knock you off course and send you back to the bottom, in which case you have to climb all the way back up to the top. Not to mention that everything just does a ton of damage, as if you fall off the track even once, your health bar just disintegrates. Like I said before, this stage is disliked for a lot of reasons, but for me, this one part in the level is just the most horrendous example of how not to do difficulty spikes, because it's just not fun, man. The only reason why this is actually above Shantoria Town is because I think the area outside of the spaceships looks absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, other than that, I absolutely despise this run killer of the game. Alright, at number 12 we have Floria Plant. Now, this might be a common fact about me, but I actually know how to speedrun Spark 2, so let me just say that Floria Plant used to actually be below Shantoria Town. That is until I actually started to speedrun this level, and boy, doing that made this level an absolute blast to go through. First of all, I can appreciate all the subtle curves and twists in the level design that make it exhilarating to, play through. On top of that, the stage looks absolutely gorgeous with the snow effect mixing with the lava effect really nicely. Being the first stage in the game to introduce lava, I just want to say that the lighting in this game is actually pretty underrated for a 3D platformer, especially an indie one. But unfortunately, this is where a majority of my compliments come to an end, because for all of its glories, the stage has many faults. First of all, that tunnel section towards the end of the level is absolutely horrendous. It just drags on forever. Also, this level has some pretty buggy collision if you crash into the wall at certain angles. And I know that this was patched in the game already, but it's just something worth mentioning. But the thing for me that cements this level so low on the list is that god-awful track that plays in the background. I think the theme for Floria Plant is actually the worst track in the game. Seriously, the instruments used in the melody are absolutely atrocious, but this isn't a music ranking video, this is a stage ranking video. So overall, if I had to give a synopsis of Floria Plant, I would just say it has some pretty interesting level aesthetics, but some pretty questionable level design. Okay, for number 11 we have Terminal Dragon. It is at this point in the list that I say the stages actually start to become, good, and not ones that I dread on a playthrough of Spark 2. First of all, I just want to say that the concept for Terminal Dragon is an absolutely sick one. The idea of traversing through a moving train, traveling across an ocean that's being carried by a giant mechanical dragon, is the type of crazy ideas that you can only find in the world of gaming. But back onto the stage, Terminal Dragon just has one word in mind, and that is spectacle. This stage is filled with so many twists, turns, and laser traps that it's almost unrecognizable from any SA2 stage, which is a complete compliment for me. Top that off with the fact that it has a sick boss fight at the end, or I guess it would if not for Spark 2's flawed combat system. The overall visuals of the level are also nice, as the sunset reflecting off the water, as well as seeing Titanic Tower in the background, is a nice touch and just a joy to see. Like I said before, this is where the stages actually start to get really good, and the only reason why Terminal Dragon is this low is because the stages above it are so much more fun and engaging. But Terminal Dragon is definitely not a sleeper pick. Alright, for number 10, we have the first stage in the game, FM City. First off, I just want to say that the art aesthetics for the stage are absolutely gorgeous. lakefeperd perfectly transitioned the stage into 3D from the 2D games. Almost every detail is captured, from the shape and coloration of the buildings to the giant ring floating above the planet in the background. The only thing I'm a little disappointed to not see are those gorgeous green mountains that you can see in the first game. But other than that, this stage is absolutely an eye candy. But how about that level design? Unfortunately, being the first stage in the game, it's pretty simplistic and linear, though that is not to say it's bad. This stage does its basic job of introducing the player to the general level design of the game pretty well, and the three main mechanics that you'll have to master in this game, such as the speed, the platforming, and the combat. And that is to say, it teaches you how pointless the combat is and that you can skip it entirely. I'm joking, of course. But yeah, FM City is a pretty excellent first level for this game, and I am definitely impressed by how well he can translate his game idea into 3D. Definitely hats off to lakefeperd in that regard. Okay, for number 9 of this list, we have Planetary Strike. Ooh boy, probably one of the most fast-paced levels in the entire game. If you like the spectacle from Terminal Dragon, you ain't seen nothing yet with this level, as it finally pays off that excellent idea for a level that I expected in Spark 1, and that is racing on that giant ring above the planet in the atmosphere. And man, this level does not disappoint with that idea, with the rock and roll track blaring in the background, and the absolutely bombastic action of teleporters, level gimmicks, and overall just everything being thrown at you to create this over-sensory feeling of traveling through space. It's absolutely exhilarating, and it doesn't help the fact that if you actually speedrun this level, it gets even more intense with every single input counting in order to make you basically blast through the zone. My only gripe with the level is that it's a bit too dark and has some pretty glitchy loops at times because of how fast you're going. But other than that, this is a pretty solid introduction into the endgame of Sparky Electric Jester 2. And like I will always constantly mention, it feels very much like an F-Zero track. Definitely a solid stage. Okay, for number 8 we have Floresta Blanca. Sadly, for the stage with the best song in the game, it has probably the most blandest level in the game. Like seriously, the theme for this level single-handedly carries it to the number 8 spot alone. My whole thing is, why didn't lakefeperd go with the beta version of the stage, as it looks way more interesting and open-ended than what we got in the full release. This version of the stage just looks like a generic white forest with about as interesting level design as a real life forest. Also, the name for the stage, Floresta Blanca, which is just white forest in Spanish, really just speaks to the overall blandness that this level gives you. Like I said before, if this stage didn't have literally one of the best songs in the entire franchise, it would have been way lower on this list. But onto the level design itself, it's actually pretty decent. I like the floating platforms and overall height and verticality that the stage offers you. Plus, it feels like you're traveling deeper and deeper inside the forest, which is pretty hard to actually emulate in a 3D space. Unfortunately, I don't like the ending for this level, as the boss fight is pretty lame, because the combat in Spark 2 isn't the greatest per se. But overall, I'll just say that Floresta Blanca is a pretty solid stage, especially coming in the midpoint of the game. Just not all that interesting if you ask me. Alright, next on the list is Floria Highway. Right off the bat, I just want to say this is another one of those stages which I had way lower on the list, but me playing through the game multiple times, I can firmly say that Floria Highway is a pretty alright stage. Acting as sort of the second world in this game, it does a pretty good job of making the player feel exhilarating and fast. Plus, it actually takes a decent amount of time to beat, unlike the other stages in this game. It unironically feels like the network hardware of this game, as it literally has some of the same art aesthetics from Spark 1. And just like Floria Plant, the OST for this track didn't really appeal to me all that much, though now I can say Floria Highway is way better than Floria Plant, just from me listening outside of the game more. But yeah, the fast-paced nature of this level is sure to hook in more Spark fans, as I'm pretty sure it just feels absolutely exhilarating to go on the loop-de-loops at this point. And if you get good at speedrunning, forget it. This is probably one of the best stages in the game to speedrun, as there's so many tricks and gimmicks you can do to exploit the game's speed and just do some crazy stuff. I mean, look at this. An absolute blast of a level and an excellent second stage in Spark the Electric Jester 2. Except for the boss at the end. That's annoying. Alrighty, for number 6 we have Castella Blanca, the hang castle of Spark the Electric Jester 2. This stage came as a complete surprise to me, as up until this point in the game, all of the stages so far have really just been rehashes and revamped versions of the 2D stages, but nah, Floresta Blanca and Castella Blanca really just act as the starting point for Spark 2 to divulge into its own stage ideas. And my goodness, will you look at this level, it's absolutely gorgeous. The mini gimmicks that the stage features are also pretty fun to engage with, such as the shifting perspectives when you go into those little tunnel areas and you have to do some tight platforming, or the little blue goo stuff that teleports you back to a checkpoint in the level whenever you touch it. Really just nice difficulty enhancing gimmicks that don't take away much from the level and really just add to, spice it up a bit. And also the track for this level is pretty interesting, as it doesn't follow the traditional creepy atmospheric tone, but instead takes a more surreal and atmospheric tone to give to the player when they're traversing through this level. This is actually one of the few levels I hate to speedrun just because of how fast you complete it and you don't get to experience its gloriness. Definitely one of the most underrated stages in Spark 2, and I highly recommend anybody who would downplay this level to play it at a second time, because man, they don't know what they're missing. Alright, we're finally getting to the top 5. For the first one, we have Apocalypse Jester, and right off the bat, I just want to say the lighting and atmosphere for this stage is absolutely stunning. Definitely worthy of the final level status that this game has given it. And the track accompanying it, man. Just view this video to see my opinions of that, but man, this is one of the best OSTs in the game. On to the level and stage design of this place, and I just gotta say that right off the bat, it perfectly mixes the difficult nature that's expected with a final level, while still keeping the fun and high-speed action that Spark 2 has been delivering so far. I died many times in this level, but unlike Hyper-Wrath Fleet, it never felt annoying and intrusive. It just felt like a natural progression of how the stage was supposed to be. Like I was supposed to die there. And every single time I play through this level, it's that same exhilarating feeling that you get whenever you're trying to go through a boss rush or something. Just pure bona fide action, and with you knowing that every single input counts in order to make sure you get through the level without, dying. My favorite part of the stage though has to be the beginning section, where it really just settles in that you're finally at the final location of Spark 2. and the aesthetics and everything just pop at you as you traverse through these high-speed tracks, and it settles in just how big this place is and that you're running through a giant auditorium. That feeling I had in my first playthrough will never cease to disappoint, and that's why, of course, it's on the number 5 spot. Okay, for this next one, I just want to say right off the bat that it is insane FM Downtown is the second level in the game. I mean, it's just incredible. The stage progression in this level is just absolutely off the charts. You start off the stage in this giant slum area where you can feel the buildings being claustrophobic against you as enemies are laid all about the place. You can choose to explore and notice sick little details around the place, such as the numerous power-ups and just the amazing art design that this stage has. Then you make it to the sewer portion of this level, where you have to travel through some sick tunnels and have enemies chasing you underwater. I'm telling you, man, it doesn't get any cooler than that. And just the way it's presented to you in such a cool fashion with that amazing track in the background really sells this level as lakefeperd telling you, look, you had your fun with the first level, but now it's time to show you what I really have. And what he really has is an excellent second level that will sell you in Spark the Electric Jester. If not, it sold me for sure. Okay, for the number 3 spot, we have Scariostrapolis. Now I know, a lot of people just think that this level is overrated, but it's just so cool, man. I mean, first of all, this is the most fun level to speedrun period in the game. I've gotten sub 30 seconds on it, and it's just an absolute blast to play through. Second of all, I think that this stage has the most unique and beautiful art aesthetics out of any level in Spark, really. Just the feeling of traversing through an ancient train station with hieroglyphs littered throughout the old infrastructure is just a really good idea for a stage. That doesn't even mention the fact that this has an absolute banger of a track in the background, probably one of the best in the game. And the section towards the end with the infinite speed pads just makes sure that the player is paying attention and not just blindlessly speeding through the game. A really nice attention to detail. Unfortunately, the short length of the stage does kind of get in the way of its amazingness, but I just feel like that's all par for the course when you consider such an amazing stage had to take a while to create. But yeah, Scariostrapolis is an absolute banger of a stage. Definitely not overrated, or at least not as overrated as people make it out to be. It's definitely not as overrated as Caria Valley. Alright, you all know it was going to be this high, but for the number 2 spot we have Technoria City, the absolute high point for Spark the Electric Jester 2. Lake probably put all of his effort into this stage in particular. I mean, just look at it, it's absolutely stunning. The music, the art direction, the level design, all of it culminates in order to make this amazing city-like level that acts as the halfway point for this game, and the turning point for Fark's story as a whole. Everything in this level just screams gorgeous, and the high-paced nature and openness of it all really just speaks to the player's inner instinct to go as fast as they can through this amazing city level. And let's not forget about the subtle story developments that this level has as well. This is the mega city of Luna, the planet which Fark and Spark take place on, and it is the turning point which Clarity informs Fark about her plans to basically take over the world. Seeing that vision in physical form and seeing how hard Fark is going to have to try in order to rid the world of Clarity really just adds agency to this level that I feel most Spark stages don't have. And you can notice all sorts of cool details in the background art for the stage, such as the innumerable references with the billboards, the insane lights and vehicles moving all over the place, giving this level a more frantic feel and grounding it in reality more, and the actual clever use of speed pads and boost rings in order to keep the player's momentum. All of this and much more adds to Technoria City's greatness, and it's no wonder why this is a fan favorite among Spark fans. Simply an amazing level. Okay, at last but definitely not least, for the final stage of this list, we have Titanic Tower. Anybody who's been remotely around my channel know that this was, and still very much is, my favorite level in Spark the Electric Jester 2. First off, I just want to say that this is probably the most unique idea for a level, not just in Spark the Electric Jester 2, but out of any speed-based platformer in general. Essentially, the whole stage revolves around you climbing this gigantic tower that's in the sky, All speed, pacing, and platforming have verticality to it, which makes it more interesting as a level. Plus, this level having such a cheery and calm nature to it really just acts as the calm before the storm, as I was never going to expect this after the masterpiece of Technoria City we just came through. This stage acts as such a brilliant piece of juxtaposition, as we went from the bombastic flow of the other city stages to the nice atmospheric chilled out nature of Titanic Tower. And it is through this calm atmospheric nature that the stage really hides one of the best reasons for why it's in the number 1 spot: the difficulty. This stage has the best example of fun difficulty that I can leverage to any platformer. The difficulty in the stage doesn't stem from any annoying stage gimmicks or badly misplaced enemies, but simply your skill as a player to platform well. Instead of dying in insidious ways that are annoying and frustrating, all you lose when you die in this level is progress. And it is through this trial and error that you really just get to experience how amazing of a stage and how well crafted Titanic Tower truly is. From the music, to its art design, to the overall vibe that the stage gives you, I would just say that Titanic Tower is a perfect example of how to adapt an amazing 2D stage idea into a 3D one. For those of you who don't know, Titanic Tower was in Sonic Before the Sequel, one of lakefeperd's fan games. But with all that said, I hope you enjoyed this top 10 list of Sparky Electric Jester 2 stages, as I had fun in making it. As usual, make sure to do all the YouTube stuff, and tell me in the comments below what would you say your favorite stage is, as I am happy to discuss anything about Spark, and pretty much anything related to it. Quick little notice before I end the video, I just want to say that I'm probably going to upload even less now that I'm starting back up the second semester of my college, so just don't expect too much from this channel, as it's going to be very hard to upload videos consistently. But yeah, peace.